Yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another PropTech Ramble. We are streaming live on Simpatico and YouTube, and also thanks to our partner Unisu, James and Eddie. Boys, thank you very much for streaming us live via Unisu as well. Today's topic is facilities management, which is very good timing because we had World FM Day last week, I think it was. I would like to introduce to you Cindy Hermsen, the CEO of the Global Alliance of Facility Management and Innovators. Cindy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. Thanks a lot.
That's all right. Can you apart from that, you're Dutch and you live in Spain and you left there for love. You love the country, the food, and the sun, but not necessarily the beaches. They're two different things. But apart from all of that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role?
Yeah. I'm the CEO of the Global Alliance of Facility Management Innovators. What we do here in our organization is that we give easy access to startup innovation to the facility management industry. And I have a small team until this moment, but we are growing. We're growing big because we've seen there's loads of facility managers wanting to get into digitalization. So it's a great job.
It's a very interesting topic because facilities management, as we were just talking about before we came live, there's lots of facilities managers who want to be really proactive and start to understand what is out there. And I think for something like, the Global Alliance, if they've got a place to go to understand where some of the technology is, who can help, what startups are out there, if they've got a particular pain point, if they can go to one place and find out what's available, that makes life easier rather than having to Google search everything and then to try and become an expert and look everywhere. Having a kind of a safe pair of hands or a trusted kind of partner in an alliance like yours will take a bit of pressure off them trying to figure out what's out there, because you can type in PropTech into Google and thousands of startups come up or thousands of companies come up, and you may not necessarily know which one's the best to go to speak to. So I think it's a great thing, and I think it's hugely important. Which brings me on to some of the questions that we've had and some of the ones I've written down for you is what are the origins of the Global Alliance and Facilities Management Innovators? Where does it come from? Why really?
Why? Yeah. Well, in 2019, I was asked by a local Spanish service provider to set up an innovation program. They wanted to approach the startup ecosystem and to prepare for the next coming years to see what it was around there. So I did that together with a consultancy from Madrid. We set it all up and started scouting. And the first thing that you learn in a process like this is how broad facility management is. And at the same time, that's quite a problem because when you look for startup innovation, you say, okay, where do we start? Do we start with waste management? Shall we get into energy solutions, maintenance, cleaning, digital twins, catering, gardening? I mean, it just doesn't stop, It's so broad that it's easy to lose focus. And then in general, startups in our sector, which is not FinTech or, it's more recent. The startups are more recently set up. They're not global companies, they're local companies. Normally as a startup, you start in your own country. And then when you get a little bit bigger, you jump to countries where normally you've got more or less the same language. The Portuguese will go to Brazil. The ones from Austria, they go to Germany. You stay a little bit safe in the beginning. So that means that if you're a facility management service provider or corporate and you want to get into innovation, get to know startups, you have to go abroad to get the complete package. And in the end, summing up, that innovation consultants are not the cheapest ones. We all know that. And if you want to do that right, well, you cannot end up with like a complete cost of 250,000 euros a year, only to approach yourself on a regular basis towards this ecosystem. And in the end, you say like, it's crazy, isn't it? So
Yeah.
when people say, yeah, facility management is lagging a bit behind on innovation, you're like, well, that's normal, isn't it? It's just too broad and it's too difficult to get to know all these young companies.
It's, as you say, it's priority as well. And if you're there to help them prioritize and get them to lay it all out, because facilities managers are busy people, right?
Yeah.
If they're not busy, I don't know one that isn't busy doing something in a building, but for them to start on the digitization path, to have someone, it is guidance, but it's not guidance. It's someone to say, right, let's sit down and spend some time and figure out your priorities. And then say, right, we work with this business that can help you with some of those. That for me, if I was an FM, that would be a bit of a relief, right? I'd still do some of my own research, but if there was a list of people that you've already vetted and that you work with and you know and trust, that's a big tick in the box. So
yeah. It's like we're a meeting point. So it's two parties coming together and knowing each other, and then after that do business in the end and give solutions. And effectively, facility managers manage so many different activities. So there's loads of good solutions out there to help them out. And instead of running around, sitting behind the dashboard and getting alarms up when things are going wrong, rather than proactively do your work, reactively do your work. Yeah. And that's really good. It's like in our personal life. I mean, in the last 12, 15 months, more than ever, we used our phones and our computers to work and to live and to keep this distance and to shop and to do sports. Me, myself, doing Pilates online. So now we're going slowly back to normal, we say. Well, of course, we digitize more than ever. We're all ready for it. And the facility management industry is ready for it. Yeah, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I agree. So since you started the Global Alliance, how have you seen facilities management change over the last few years? I know digital facilities, as you just rightly said, is starting to accelerate more because of COVID, but what changes have you seen since you started the Global Alliance and FM services?
I must say that I haven't seen it change a lot. I've seen it suffering.
Okay.
It's been such a difficult year. I mean, you're into workplace management solutions, so you're more maybe focused on offices, but there's so many other types of facility managers around there. I mean, there are guys and girls who run hospitals, or schools, or do 200 outlets of some kind of shopping chain, or 500 police stations, or whatever, And these people, we facility managers, we have literally millions of frontline workers working for us. So to keep them all safe, to adapt to regulations that were going on and changing in the beginning every 3 days, and after that every 2 weeks, getting signage up, getting the gel machines, making social distancing possible. I mean, come on, it was like, it's not been a year of change, it's been a year of survival. And and anyway, I think that change is coming now. Change is coming with what we call FMTech.
Yeah.
FMTech, the umbrella on which we say we embrace our startups from the FM industry, like Metrikus and others.
Yes.
And we put you all together, and we don't say PropTech, we say FMTech, because we are with that. Yeah. I mean, we're millions and millions of people working at that. We're frontline workers first, and then all the organizations that are behind that, and facility management, consultants, providers, and also the corporate facility management, of course. And all together, we are having a business that's worth $2 trillion in 2026. So I would say that's worth our own denomination. We are FMTech.
I would agree. And if you, the interesting part with FMTech, we'll call it that now, is there's a lot you can do to help FM facilities managers very, very quickly, right? And rather than being reactive, as you mentioned earlier, becoming proactive is not as hard as people think. The quick wins are there, connecting to a BMS, pulling out the data, and then, as you said, set some rules or thresholds so you get alerts when a state changes so you can go and address it before it's an issue. That's quite an easy thing to do. Generally, when you do a BMS review and you pull the data into a system, like we've done many, there's always an energy saving. So the company's happy because, by the way, you spent this money to let me do the building management system review and get proactive alerts, but also we saved you some energy, Mr. Employer. So, or Mrs. Employer, you should be happy with that. So I think FM tech and the changes in facilities management, although it's been kind of called a laggard or it's been a bit slow, I think it'll accelerate over the next few years because there's a lot of things happening. There's a lady that we're doing some work with in America. She's the CEO of a business as well, very, very successful facilities management business. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of customers, billions of square feet under management for her clients. And she started something called the Facility Data Standard. And that is to standardize naming conventions within facilities management because everyone has their own naming convention, and when you look at under the covers and you look at a BMS, we've been on projects where every floor had a different naming convention when we pulled the data out. And it's like, my God, this is crazy. So FM is changing, and I think that over the next few years it will change faster than it has before. So that's my view. So,
yeah. And
you can help with that. We can help with that. It's a good thing.
We're here for that. And when you say facility management is a little bit lagging behind, but that's an advantage, eh? Because we're still on time to get on board.
Yeah. Well, you let things happen first, see what works and what doesn't, then you jump on board, right?
Yeah, so. Because we look at FinTech and we say, okay, we won't do it like that. If all these big banks with those big financial institutions of years and years ago who got where digitalization was taking place already since PayPal, let's say, if these guys could not cope with digitalization, and we're almost, they're all still now shutting down all the local outlets that they have, all the local banks, and they are changing so many things because they're almost not surviving. If a bank cannot do it, digitalization is unstoppable. We as a facility managers, we better say, okay, we better get on board before it's too late, because the world is changing and we cannot stop it. We just have to adjust to it and get used that metal keys will be changed for, mobile phones that beep, beep, and doors get open, for example. It's the normal way of doing. Yeah.
So based on what you've just said, I've got another question here is how is FM tech, as I'm now going to call it, how is FM tech seen in general by the FM world? Is it friend or foe? What do you see with the people you talk to?
Good question. Well, of course, at this stage, it's still a friend, but must not turn into a foe. And that's what I just told about the banking institutions. If you're too late, then it can be a real problem for your career even, and for your company if you're a service provider. If we look at, for example, at the hotel sector and Airbnb, well, it's the same thing. Or Spotify and the music industry. What happened over there is amazing. In no time, a digital company, a startup like Spotify or Airbnb, in 10 years they were like triple worth than the classical Hilton, who was already 100 years old, and without having any room of their own. There's a sentence of it's a food catering company from a startup food catering company from the US, and they say, and it impacted me. I will have to read that. He says, his name is Ryan Spong, and he says, our vision is to become the largest local food provider to offices, but own no kitchens, cook no meals, and deliver no food. You go like, what? Now imagine this in the facilities management world, and we apply that to a cleaning company, okay? Just to make a joke of it, but it will not be that easy that it might, but still, let's apply it. Our vision is to become the largest commercial cleaning provider, but own no brooms nor scrubbing brushes, enter no physical spaces, and having no employees. Yeah, you say impossible. Impossible. But all the other old style companies like Hilton, Marriott, or the old music industry thought the same thing about the disruptive solutions that came after them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, friend or foe, open your eyes, and you better
embrace it and make it a friend rather than let it become a foe, right? So,
at least come close, contact, and start collaborating. Embrace that danger.
Yeah.
And,
make your life easier. Make your life easier when you're at work. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
That's when you're in corporates. You say, okay, for corporates, it's quite difficult to get into startup innovation too, because normally when you're a corporate FMer, apart from that you're very, very busy, normally you don't have a budget for innovation. I mean, the budget of innovation will always be for the core activity of that company, isn't it? So you depend on your own curiosity and your own time and on your service providers to get ideas for innovation or contact with startups. And there is what I also want to say to corporate and FMers. Ask your service providers with whom they are contacting. If there are new solutions over there, what are they cooking? And service providers contact also with startups and get them on board. Work with them. Make a top service for your final corporate clients. Build a service together with the startups that are around you.
Yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't normally do a plug on this show at all, but that's why we created the Smart Building Starter Pack, because some people don't have lots of money or a budget to do a POC. So starting small and testing the water is quite a good way to do things. We've got some other questions down here, but we've got some questions coming in as well. So the first one is from Ignacy Casamada Bragulet, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Apologies if I did not. What will be the new normal in cleaning service in your view, Cindy, based on what we were talking about?
New normal in cleaning service after COVID.
Well, I think in general, maybe post-COVID, but in general, if we're talking about digitization.
Yeah, in digitization, what we see in cleaning, on one hand, what I see with service providers in general, especially in the north of Europe, they start with like corporate venturing. They set up their own like internal startup, and start applying technology in for example, in the routes that they make. So from static cleaning, we go to data-driven cleaning. So people can push a button and then the cleaning lady will come up and clean that room. But that's only a start, I think, because this is more like indoor location of people and making calls, and that people directly see, the cleaners directly see where to go clean. Yeah. But there will be another evolution of that, I think. Artificial intelligence will be applied also in the working routes of the cleaners, and frontline workers like cleaners will have to be empowered also in their jobs with artificial intelligence. And I know that there are some people working on that, but we'll see how that will develop in the future.
Yeah, we get a lot of requests for smart cleaning. We do a lot around smart cleaning now because of COVID. Prior to COVID, we talked about it. Not a lot of people did it, but now, like every week we're doing something around smart cleaning for people. So it is evolving. It will change, and it will get smarter and smarter. Peter Bell has sent in another question coming from another industry, transit. It feels like standards are not commonplace. Is there a role for standards in FMTech? I will answer that myself just quickly, and then I'll hand to you, Sydney. Yes is the answer, Peter. Everything needs standards. I'm an ops person, so I would say that anyway. But with standards, whether it's naming conventions, whether it's technology conventions, whether it's cleaning standards, whether it's regime standards, without standards, it's hard to create structure, and it's hard to improve processes and services without some form of standard. Otherwise, it's kind of organized chaos, right? Which is my house generally when I go home with wife and 3 kids and lots of animals. So Cindy, over to you. I think standards are hugely important, and it's why I think the facilities data standard that Jill has created in America is important, because they see the same thing. They want to bring standards into the facilities and FM world, whether it's to do with smart cleaning, whether it's to do with planned preventative maintenance, or asset tracking. Standards are important. And even in transit, we were talking to train companies during COVID about monitoring indoor air quality and understanding what was going on the trains. And we were asking them about the cleaning regimes, because the indoor air quality sensors would be affected by the cleaning products, depending on what cleaning products they used. And they just said, oh, well, we just clean when a train comes into a station. And so there's no guarantee of timing. So understanding what was going on with the indoor air quality was a bit erratic sometimes. So having a standard helps. But Cindy, over to you.
Oh, no, it's standards, of course. Also because we have to be able within the industry to compete on the same level. We have to speak the same language. The corporate FMers have to be able to compare not apples with pears, but apples with apples. So then, that's very important, of course. I've seen how in Germany, there's like service providers themselves have grouped together to make standards, to create standards for sustainability norms.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think that's really a good idea, that the industry leaders themselves say, listen, this is the way we are going to talk, and this is fair while we are competing, and everything is cleared up. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is, I think in Europe, it's the VDMA as well, right? We're looking at standards as well. So I know the VDMA are involved in the facilities data standard. So yeah, it's hugely important. Every industry needs standards to help improve services. We've got another question. So this is one that we had for you actually. How would you advise a facilities manager to get involved in a digital innovation ecosystem?
Well, first, start reading and looking at YouTube videos on anything tech. You've got these tech gurus around there. You've got the famous Bernard Marr, for example. He's got these little tech pills in 60 seconds. That helps. It helps, to focus a little bit on what's going on. LinkedIn, of course. Many articles are around there. Interesting things to read about. And second, start talking to startups. Give them a call. Make them come over. And see what they have in mind for you, and be open. I mean, Michael, you're not too young anymore, but many startups.
I'm an old man, Cindy. I'm an old man.
You're an old man like me, but many startups have, as a CEO or the salespeople, they're like 30 years old or 28, and they might come over in a pair of jeans. You go like, but take them serious. I mean, they know what they're talking about. Start with that. Start to engage. Start to talk. Invite them. Show them your facilities and tell them, listen, we're doing this and that and that. The good thing about the startup is that they're always listening. They always want to make your service better, but also their service. So as soon as you've got a problem and it's not solved within the solution that they give, they're serious about that. They adjust and they adapt. In any way, I always think, oh, poor startups, you're never ready. you better be a baker where you find a recipe for the ideal cookie and you can bake them for the rest of your lives. But you startups, it's like always, you're never ready. You get these huge financial means in from your investors, but it's all to invest in to get better. And again, and tomorrow there's a new tech and you have to apply it and adjust it and new features, and you're never ready. It's amazing. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's when you start to work with customers doing this daily, and you're right, startups, I think one of the beauties about startups, and I would say this because I help run one, is we're fleet of foot. As you said earlier, we can, if you've got a problem, and we do it for customers all the time, we do something for them day in and day out, and then they say, by the way, we've got something over here. Do you think you could help with that? And if we don't have the solution that day, when we work out together with the customer the value of solving that problem, we'll build a solution for it. And that's something that startups are really good at. The big beasts, you know, the CBREs, the JLLs, they're all working hard to try and become more agile than they are. They're investing in startups because they realize that the FM world is changing. And I think it is important for people, as you say, for FM managers, facilities managers, to go and talk to startups, but also events. I know we're virtually doing this via video. I know a lot of people have Zoom fatigue and virtual event fatigue, but some of these events have really good startups on there that could solve a problem for you, or you have a problem that you want to be thinking about, or you want to address, I should say. They're good things. When we can all go back to physical events, I think I like to go to events, not just to meet people, but when you've got a ton of technology in one space and you can really spend your time thinking about your problems and then walking around. Virtual events are a bit trickier, but they're still good because we're in lockdown and you can go to each virtual event. But going to events, I think, helps FM people as well, or anyone in a particular space. Because take the Excel Centre in London, it's massive. And if that's full of FM innovation, what a place to go with like a kid in a candy shop for a techie, right? And it's like, wow, what can I go and see? But when you can take your time and think about your own problems, whether you're having a coffee or your own lunch or you're sitting with other people, being able to go out there and see what is out there, I think you're right. Reading, studying, listening.
Webinars. Yeah. And I mean, you can get into a webinar, a good webinar every week. And
every day almost. Every day almost at the moment there's a webinar.
Yeah, there's also a lot of blah blah. I mean,
there is a lot.
Yeah. I would say go to the startup webinars, because there's where you get most inspired and surprised, and you go like food waste, for example. You've got these startups. It's also from the UK. They're Winnow, and they have a device, and it sits on your litter bin. And it looks down to what you're throwing away. And then it can see exactly if it's French fries or pieces of apple, you know, and they detect what it is and then calculate with weight, etc., how much you are throwing away money. And you can, your kitchen managers can adjust their schemes and their plans on that.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Mean, come on, isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, the wastage of food in restaurants and, you know, corporate buildings who have restaurants, big financial services industry, companies, that could be huge savings.
Yeah, and these savings, you must not put them in your pocket, but you must invest them in the next startup.
Yeah.
You know, just keep on going.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So if you're a service provider, engage with startups, get them on board, start talking and make this like unbeatable top service together with them. And also it's nice because you can start talking about different things with your clients. It's not anymore about the typical things that facility managers talk about, but it's, you know, about hours and KPIs and things like, but like on new things, what is happening around there? It's just great conversation material too.
I agree. I agree. Well, Cindy, we haven't had any more live questions. Thank you for the people who did put them in. I haven't got any other questions written down that I had written before this, but thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you joining. It's great to meet you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again very soon. We are changing things up for the next event. I'm just reading it here because I hadn't read this earlier, so that's my bad. We have, on the next event, we'll have one of 3 panel speakers, which is on the 9th of June. So Caleb Tracy is one. Who the others are yet, I don't even know myself, but you'll have to tune in to find out. So yeah, the next one, 9th of June. But Cindy, a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much. I'm hoping the weather is better in Spain than it is here in the UK.
It is. Sorry, but it is, yeah.
Perfect. Lovely. Cindy, thank you very much. Hang on, we've had a question. Hi, Cindy. Hello, Michael. FMs seem to be such an old school, traditional old guys show. Do you think FM companies realize that they should also innovate to be more attractive to millennials?
That's a good one.
This is what we were talking about just before the show.
Just before. Yeah. I was saying to Mike, can you imagine that you've got a new colleague in your facility management team and you say, oh, we don't do email here. There's the fax machine. Or you say, you think, you wouldn't do that ever. But now it's like the same with the millennials coming in as building users. It can be customers, but it can also be people on your own team or in your company, your colleagues from other departments. You have to start changing because your user is changing. He's getting younger, or she. So living in a different world, you have to keep up with that pace of society. Your building has to adapt to society, to the pace of society. Yeah. So maybe in 10 years, these metal keys that we have around there in the drawer won't be there anymore. And that's good. It's good.
It is good. And it's something we talked about literally prior to the show. Balaz, so thank you for sending it in. We were literally talking about this. I actually said that people in FM like to wear their underpants on the outside, which means they want to be Superman, but not all of them want to do that. But it is, and I was saying, I don't know any really young facilities managers in the market. I think if there were more of them, there would be more innovation. But as Cindy said earlier, a lot of people don't get budgets to do innovation in FM. So it's a bit of a catch-22, a bit of a tricky situation. So you've got to figure out how you do that, building a business case around it. But there is space for millennials. And I think having more of them in will probably pull it faster into the 21st century. But yeah, it's a tricky one. A lot of FM people are ex-military, more so in different parts of the world as well. And they like rules, they like regulations, but you do need to be flexible. You do need
but I want to defend the facility manager here. Eh?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it's the guy who fixes everything. And there are so many universities around there. Also in Holland, for example, and I look at that a little bit more than in other countries maybe, but you've got universities where every year there are hundreds of facility managers coming out and doing a great job. It's not that. The failure of facilities managers not getting more into innovation is A, budget, and B, especially access, easy access. That's why we created our free basic membership. We said, okay, we have to give access to everybody. Any facility manager in the worldwide world, has to do clack, 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 and see a list of all the best startups that are around there. Balanced, some waste, some digital twins, some workplace, some energy, some maintenance, and show who's around there. And at that moment, I'm sure that facility managers say, great, but this is for us. Boom, and go for it.
They should all do that. Every single one. Cindy, thank you again. We haven't had any more. We are live streaming, that is for the millennials. So perfect. Cindy, thank you very much for your time. It was lovely to meet you. We will speak again soon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It will be available afterwards as well as being live now. But we'll see you. 9th of July is the next one. Thanks, everybody.